I said, nah, I need some questions. I got a few questions. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it's this weird energy going on where people is getting technology confused with science, and no, technology is not science. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep this in mind. Then when people start to confuse technology with science, they start to give science all this credence that it don't deserve. Remember, science is Satan. So science ain't nothing but a group of individuals pseudo knowledge, but they just have access to metals and telescopes and objects. And that's the actual technology. So keep that in mind. And, you know, people may still be confused. So let me recarve your brain so I can help you understand. If you're a fucking atheist or someone who believes in science, science isn't something to believe in. Science is a method. You see what I'm saying? And all methods may not work. So when you start to say you believe in science, you turn science into a religion. Science, Satan, Lucifer, universe. Now, check this out, because you really have to ask yourself, what have science produced that we actually use that we're calling science? The shit that we be calling science ain't science. It be technology. And motherfuckers be trying to say that's why we should believe in science. But science never proved anything all the way to the CGI goddamn galaxy. Now look, in hydrogen fucking stars. Now look, check this out, right? Specifically, science is a method, not a thing. Science is a method. It seemed like people get lost in words and get retarded. So they get ready to think I don't know what I'm talking about based on the way I'm getting ready to use the terminology. Wow, anytime they jump into science, it's going to fall on the basis of how I'm explaining it. So this is why science change every 10 or 15 years. So it's a belief, because if you know, you just know. It don't matter how many years pass. You know something, okay? It don't have to be updated because it's already a knowing, okay? Now look, so check this out. Science is a method that they created. Science is a method that they create technology around. Let me repeat, because it ain't like when you go to the hospital or you get ready to give birth or something like that, they're not using technology. We got people lost with jailman knowledge and think that this is science. No, this is technology. Okay? Two different things. Now, science is a method that they create technology around to test their pseudo knowledge. So technology would be things like telescopes, things like how you test a person's mitochondrial DNA or shit like that, or telescopes and satellites and all kind of other retarded ass shit and things of that nature. When you start to talk about what the fuck technology is, you see what I'm saying? Now, technology is based on science that's unprovable, and you can't argue for or against. So every now and then, they may get some things right based on the technology, and every now and then, most of the time, they get shit wrong based on the technology. So that lets you know science ain't something to believe in. Science is a method, and they create technology to suit the science, which is why science get updated every 10, 15 years, because it's not a knowing, it's a fucking belief. Now, look, check this out. So science is a method that they could create technology around to try to test their pseudo knowledge, which is why some technology destroys us, like our eyes from the computer screens, these tablet screens and things of that nature. And which is why in other contexts, some technology helps us out, like machines and things of that nature and crutches and shit like that. Because the technology ain't nothing but purely a fucking chair you sitting in. So you don't have to be standing up all motherfucking day. So let's not get it fucked up with anybody can make a form of technology. When we start to talk about science, this is hypothetical methods and shit to try to expand what you think you are aware of while still having to create a form of technology. Bitch, an ink pen is technology. Bitch, a lighter is fucking technology. So the shit we using that we're calling science ain't nothing more, nothing less but technology. And since motherfuckers get lost in Satan science, they use somebody a lot of money that they have access to be able to utilize their pseudo shit and create technologies to prove their hypotheses and shit like that. And therefore, just because they got curriculums and Neil deGrasse energies and shit like that, it make the common average individual cling on to their pyramid scheme worth of knowledge before being able to observe things for yourself, to be able to be and to not be biased to see what works and what don't work also. See what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. Because that's not to say that all technology is wrong. We got some technology that benefits us. So that lets us know their scientific method was more on the right end than the negative end. But it's always a percentage scale. Other than that, we will have cures and we'll have a truth, not belief. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing. But the term science itself has nothing to do with things. So keep this in mind. Science is a method that they create technology around to try to test their pseudo knowledge, which is why some technology destroys us, like our eyes and shit, and some technology helps us, like machines and shit. But the term science itself has nothing to do with it. And you have dumbass jailman individuals out here utilizing science as it's something to believe in, and science never produced anything. You see what I'm saying? Science never produced anything. See what I'm saying? You mean technology. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different motherfucker discussion. Getting into science, you believing in a whole bunch of men hypotheticals before they fucking prove it and shit like that. Now, here's the thing. All they do is create a hypothesis, which is science. That's the hypothesis. Then do things and methods to try to prove it, and that's when technology come into play. So science and technology isn't even the same thing. Technology is purely based on someone's pseudoscience. All science is pseudo. So keep that in mind also, because you got to have a starting point to even know what you're looking for. Other than that, you're not going to know what you're looking for. For an example, like check it out, right? Because that's why I made this title the way I made it. How does proving you from Africa prove what race you are? Like, that's the dumbest shit ever. That's just like saying you from America. That don't prove what race you are. So any jailman knowledge piggybacking off that is stupid. So how does proving you from Africa, a geographical location, prove what race you are? Because if you understand what science is, it's just a whole bunch of people coming up with their hypothesis about something, which is why they wrong. The sun ain't no floating light ball in the middle of a vacuum space. We know light is the atmosphere. So how can it be a such thing as a light surrounded by nothing, by no atmosphere, if the light is the atmosphere itself? That lets you know you can only find that on Google or CGI or a Star Trek movie. You can never actually see no light in vacuum in space unless they got a satellite up there. Other than that, any light you see in this motherfucker is either a reflection or the light itself, to the point that that's the atmosphere. It's daytime, bitch. Ain't no seeing space. You just see it's daytime. That's what the light is. Atmosphere, bitch. Now look. So how does proving you from Africa prove what race you are, right? Because it's basically just telling you the government starting point to when they started to fuck y'all. That's basically it's remember, always have to have a starting point. So since their starting point as a shadow government is, yeah, we started setting up shop over here in Africa first, right? Then that's going to be their scientific methods that they create technology around to prove things around. But there's no such thing as it being the truth to know that you actually just from Africa. You know what I'm saying? How you know it ain't other lands and things of that nature, and we traveled to Africa? And I hate to use that term we, because once we start to get into this line of reasoning and train of thought, all of it sounds stupid. What people be clinging on to nowadays. But look, because here's the thing, the DNA type of shit is basically just telling you when the government starting point to when they started to fuck y'all, right? Like it's only going to trace y'all back to the 13 colonies. It's not going to trace you back to you thinking your old race. If that's the case, y'all should have been found God. Why ain't y'all find God yet? Or why ain't y'all find the first woman or the first man, since y'all believe in incest and infinite regress? Why ain't y'all find the first man and woman? Why everybody still just finding their own family that only lead to somebody in the 13 colonies? Because it's their starting point. So science is faulty because it's based on someone's method. Science is a method, not something to believe in. You could believe in a technology that proves certain scientific methods, but this is how we can understand having wisdom with intellect. This is how we can understand why all technology don't help us and certain technology hurt us or make us more handicapped and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? Because it's based on science, and science is merely a method. And a method is basically a group of individuals coming up with a hypothetical. So they're trying to figure out if that hypothetical right or not. And based on the technology that get created to prove it, the more wrong they is going to be the technology that they create to destroy us. The more right they is going to be the technology that they create to actually benefit us in some way. But it's never 100% truth or 100% cure. Do you understand? Let's stop being fools down here. I don't understand what's wrong with y'all. Y'all don't even understand words. Now, look, check this out, right? You can get on Google right now, it'll tell you. Now, because, look, it's basically, when it comes to DNA and things of that nature, it's basically just telling you the government starting point to when they started fucking y'all. Same way we know light don't got no shape. So for them to tell us the sun is a floating light ball, right? They started with their own hypothetical method first. They came up with it. They thought the sun moving to the right. You know what I'm saying? And they thought it's in the sky or something in a vacuum, right? So that's their starting point. So they create a whole bunch of technology to try to prove their science, a method. But all the technology they create still don't prove what the sun is and why we can't see the sun rise live on YouTube since they got all these satellites up there to track it, right? That lets you know their starting point. Their science is wrong because science is just a method. Now, when they create the right method, they create the right technology around it. And then that's when we can say, okay, I believe in technology. And someone had closely the right method to make that technology better than the previous person that had a certain method that made a technology that is phony now. Quote unquote, there would be no such thing as comparing images from the Hubble telescope and the James Webb telescope. Where really them ain't pictures out there. That's them receiving vibrations from the current. And based upon the energy of it, like if it's a high velocity one, they give that blue. If it's vague, they give it red, like a red shift, because that means something have been there. And then they put a whole bunch of things in between and claim that's their hypothetical of the galaxy. And they're coming from a wrong starting point, thinking that stars are floating up there by itself. All of it's wrong anyway. You ain't gonna never see that kind of galaxy unless they throw Project Blue Beam up there, continue to throw satellites up there, and you continue to be a goddamn Star Trek fan. Or a Google scholar. That'd be the only way you ever gonna see some light ball in the middle of a vacuum, period. And we know space ain't no vacuum. So using dark matter or energy as an argument is stupid because dark matter is just a different term for things that's there that haven't been discovered yet. So as soon as they discover it, they're gonna give it a name. So then you're gonna have to you still gonna be using dark matter as an argument? That's stupid. Scientists is just as religious. I ain't gonna say scientists because they part of the shadow government. People who believe in science and regurgitate and utilize it for their atheistic ass arguments and things of that nature are just religious as theists. Never forget that. Now look, pardon me, because I'm not even a theologian, but this how, if you're a theologian watching me, this how you argue with a scientist. I mean, this how you argue with an atheist. They'd bring up a whole bunch of things that they claim is science, but that's technically not science. That's technology. You know what I'm saying? So you have to tell them to stop arguing for science. You're trying to argue for a technology. And we got certain technology that we can kind of understand the cosmos. We got certain technology we can kind of understand DNA. We got certain technology, but we don't got no pure truth. We ain't got no pure cure. So obviously using the term science as your argument and saying you believe in science, you got the game fucked up. And you've been allowed to get away with that because you're not around or arguing with intelligent people who wordsmiths. And don't just use words for the sake of using words because you can to create stalemate arguments. No, actually know what these things point to. So we can actually reach the root of matters and shit. You see what I'm saying? Now, so when it comes into motherfucking it's basically just telling y'all when the government started to fuck y'all. So it's only going to trace y'all back to the 13 colonies because there's no way you can have people's DNA from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like, that's impossible. Like, you could go get your DNA took all you want. When you going to find your historicity, you're not finding it based on other people who got their DNA took. You find it based upon last names and birth certificates and shit like that. So it can only lead you to a 13 colony. You see what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. Now, because once it goes beyond that, they can't trace that. You have to go to the hospital or something like that to see like shit like that, and then that could only go so far back. So if it ain't no records based on like your grandma within those hospitals and shit like that, they don't got your DNA. They don't got your fucking DNA. You know what I'm saying? Always know that. Ain't no such thing as them having somebody's blood samples from hundreds of years ago to match that with your DNA. They only matching you from who ruled you and your last name. But look, check this out. Like, so it's only going to trace y'all back to the 13 colonies, because there's no way you can have people's DNA from hundreds of years ago. So it's based on some hypothetical origin based on when they started to rule y'all and rape y'all and shit like that. So you can only trace as far as back as them. You can't trace back as far as you. You can't trace back as far as your race and before y'all got raped. You can only trace back as far as the motherfuckers who started to rule y'all in Egypt, right? Another thing too, being related based on mixture, being related to someone based on mixture should not be utilized as an excuse to be into African panism. Let me repeat. Being related based on mixture shouldn't be used as a base to believe in Pan-Africanism or to go back to those traditions or anything of that nature. So keep that in mind also, because a lot of y'all are the only reason y'all calling each other like a same race or some shit like that is because someone made y'all. So just because you a race that was made based off mixture, that's not necessarily a good argument to use as why we should be Pan-Africans. But they don't understand that from that aspect. For you to say, oh, we from Africa and things of that nature, we need to go back to the old traditions and shit, that's just basically accepting the fact that you want to go back to how you was slaved in the first place. That's stupid. How much sense does that make? So motherfuckers gonna be doing that from like 2,000 years from now when we get into motherfucking I'm about to say, what the hell? We about to be doing that 2,000 years from now with America and shit like that. Oh yeah, we need to go back to America and shit like that. But look, like that's not a good thing to want to claim you want to go back to a landmass or tradition purely because y'all race based on being mixed. That's dumb as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And that's how the shadow government got everybody. That's why they got the pyramid on back of their money and shit like that and everything. Because they telling y'all where they set up shop at first. You know what I'm saying? That's not a good argument to want to go back and cling on to something because you want to claim you a whole race of mixed people and shit like that. None of y'all is into incest. And you know that. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, there's a such thing as just mixture in general. So I know what's the whole argument. Okay, you from Africa, and now what? So hit that motherfucking link. If you think you from Africa and you did some goddamn and you think that mean anything, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I can show you how it's still stupid to even think that way, that you think that's something positive. So for the most part, hit that motherfucking link. I need to motherfucking know. Okay, you from Africa, and what now?